So we're talking about sex and soulmates. So yeah, let's rock it here. There's so many questions that I have for you, and I'm sure a lot of people will want to know about like all these things. So I had to calm myself down.
Deep breathing, girl.
Just calm down. Just calm down. And there might be many parts to this because this stuff is really deep, and I think it's time.
Oh yeah.
So so how do you know when you've met your soulmate?
There are 1,000,001 different signs. So, the first thing to know is that it's an energetic connection, so it's a spiritual connection. And so you're going to be aware of that energetically. So, for instance, like it may trigger a full-blown spiritual awakening in you. It may, even if you never had any psychic types of experiences before, you may start to have them. You may start to feel, what your soulmate feels. You may start to have really deep insight into your soulmate. Usually, there's an immediate connection. It doesn't, it's not logical. It just happens immediately. And you will know, because it's really hard to ignore. Really hard to ignore. So on my website, victoriazaitz.com, there's a whole lot of signs and symptoms of having met a soulmate. So you can look there and look at some of the other ones. But, and when you're apart from them, you just kind of feel like your heart's like ripped out. So that's how you know too. But it's a spiritual experience.
So it transforms you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're meant to learn about yourself through a soulmate. A lot of people get very hooked on the idea of having a relationship with one. And that may or may not happen depending on the lessons that are involved that you're learning from the relationship. So it's a very deep path of learning through relationship. And, both soulmates have to do their end of the deal. They have to do their end of the work in order to come together. Sometimes it's a balancing out of the masculine and feminine qualities. It has to do with life lessons. So that's, if you don't do that, not likely that you're going to be able to work it out with your soulmate. Of course, some soulmates, like karmic soulmates, they're only there for a certain reason. So maybe they're there to teach you one lesson, and that's it. And you might never see them again. But even just having, even just one brief, 5-minute interaction with a soulmate can change your life forever. It's that profound.
So you can have more than one soulmate?
Yes. More than one soulmate. In fact, if you're on this path of learning through relationships, it's very likely that you're going to have more than one. So I think I've been through 7 so far.
Good times.
7. Yeah, I mean, of course, some of them are stronger than others, and then there's the whole twin flame phenomenon.
Okay, so what's the difference between twin flame and a soulmate? What's the difference?
Well, first of all, twin flames, you'll never get rid of it. You'll never get rid of the connection. You can try. But, theoretically, twin flames are supposed to be the other half of your soul, right? So the Big Bang, the moment of creation, we were all created. There's a masculine and a feminine half. It doesn't have anything to do with bodies, but it has to do with energy. And they're supposed to be balancing out their masculine and feminine qualities. So that is a major thing with twin flames. It feels very much like a soulmate. It's more intense, though, even more intense. And it's just so profound. I mean, you'll know for sure. But once again, you know, people get very like I said, hung up on this idea of relationship and that it must be a relationship. And really it's about your own personal inner self growth and awareness. So that's the best way to look at it, because you're never going to know just from meeting someone right at the outset whether it's a karmic situation or there's many lessons to be had or there's a lifetime of lessons to be had. So you don't know until you go through it, until you go through the process. So, you know, if it's just a one-time lesson, then you have to be able to let that person go and just learn what you were supposed to learn and hope that they learn what they were going to learn, of course. If they refuse to learn it or you do, then you just set up a pattern of repeating relationship cycles where you'll keep getting the same lessons drawn to you, basically, which is no fun. So do your work.
So what about, so you have like tools and things to help people go through when they're in, you know, soulmate thing to kind of get through it or understand themselves better?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that you really have to understand what's going on, because, you know, if you don't understand that's a spiritual connection, if you don't know what a soulmate is, you're probably going to be really baffled. And all of your friends are going to be like, you know, get over it. Why don't you just get over it? But they don't have any idea, you know, like the depth of it and what's actually going on. So first you should really know what it is, and that you're in it, and that, you know, it's about learning your lesson. So you have to think about, okay, what am I supposed to be learning from this situation? And how can I really grasp that and then move forward with that lesson? Do I need to change something about myself? Maybe I let people walk all over me and I need to be more assertive. You know, I need to bring out more of the masculine. Maybe if you're a man, you know, it's hard for you to really bring out the feminine and the feelings and all of that. And maybe that's, you know, part of the reason why it happened. So learning the reasons why it happened, of course, talking to me is helpful. You know, as a psychic, I can kind of tune into things, and that's very helpful. Grounding, you got to keep yourself grounded. Reiki, which is of course what you do. Reiki is actually very helpful for soulmate connections, because that's where the level of the connection actually is. It works at the level of energy. So, you know, if you're doing healing work in there on that, it's going to affect probably, you know, both of them, because their energy is connected. So that's just some of the tools.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's so important, I think, because a lot of people have these ideas, you know, romantic ideas, I would say, about they're looking for their soulmate, and then once they find their soulmate, they're like, oh my god, you know, this is hard. Or
they are hard.
Yeah.
It's not hearts and flowers. I mean, it can be. Hearts and flowers are great, but I mean, the thing that's profound about it is the intense, transformative spiritual experience and the feeling of emotions and, you know, the intensity of the whole thing. It's very beautiful. I mean, unconditional love is a very beautiful force, and it is a very powerful force. So that's the mystical thing, and I think that's where all the romanticizing of relationships comes from. You know, like, some of us, if we're not spiritually aware, or just, you know, we don't know that we seek something spiritual. But if we are, then we know that we want that out of a relationship, and there's no better place to get it than a soulmate. So there's like the really high, you know, amazing emotional element to it, which is like crazy. And then, you know, there's also, you know, you're going from your highest highs to your lowest lows sometimes. But, and that reminds me of a line from a poem by Khalil Gibran.
Oh, that's my favorite.
You know, and he says that, you know, if you only seek love's peace and love's pleasure, then basically, I'm paraphrasing, remove yourself from the path of love, because it's not all about, you know, hearts and flowers. You will, I'm paraphrasing again, you will, you know, step into the seasonless world where you will not laugh all of your laughter and you won't cry all of your tears. If you turn that kind of love away, but if you embrace it, then of course you're in the full experience of love, you know, to the fullest extent. And it will change you. It will change your life.
Wow. That's really deep because
Yeah.
that was my mom had that book around the house when I was little.
Okay, hold your bra.
You're right. And so that was my first kind of, you know, idea of what love was. That was like one of the first love poems.
Well, I
that
think you
ever
got a great
read.
education. Because it's very accurate. Yeah, very accurate.
Yeah, but you don't really, you know, these things, you know, are in the mind. But once they're in, I think the soulmate connection, you're embodying.
Oh,
the
yes.
Experience. Because,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of stuff is in your mind. It's esoteric. We want compassion. We want unconditional love. But you don't know it until you start experiencing it, and you're tested. Okay, now are you going to love me like this, or are you going to love the situation like this? You know,
Oh, tested. You will be
Yeah.
tested. There's often a lot of barriers for soulmates and twin flames also to coming together. It just doesn't happen, you know, like overnight. So, you know, if somebody chooses to be with someone else, then, you know, you have to accept that they've made that choice. You have to honor their choices. And that's not always easy, but, you know, the unconditional love part makes it a lot easier because there's naturally a lot of understanding between soulmates, and you just know, you understand on a level that, you know, your girlfriends will tell you, I don't understand, why you gotta, you know, I mean, he's screwed up.
right.
Get rid of him, you know.
Right.
But you sort of, I'm not saying that means that you should be in any kind of relationship that's unhealthy at all, ever.
Right.
Soulmate or not, twin flame, whatever, I don't care what label you put on it. You know, if they're abusing you verbally, emotionally, mentally, physically, get the hell out. Get the hell out. There's no justification for that. But, you know, you're going to have conflict, you're going to have friction, you know, in any relationship at all. And, you know, you can't expect this, like, perfect, idyllic thing. And I think that that's what our culture forces people to do, or thinks that that's, you know, once you meet that one and only perfect one, then you will, you know, it's going to be bliss, and you're not going to have to do any work. And that's crap. It's crap!